Listen up. Israel steps up Syria attacks. Israeli military strikes target Syrian air bases in Damascus site. It states Israel stepped up airstrikes on Syria, declaring the attacks a warning to the new Islamist rulers in Damascus as it accused their ally, Turkey, on Thursday of trying to turn the country into a Turkish protectorate. Y'all, if they destroy the military bases in Damascus, Damascus is over with. Isaiah chapter 17, verse 1, the burden of Damascus. Behold, Damascus is taken away from being a city, and it shall be a ruinous heap. Y'all, we are so close to going home. Keep your heads up, our redemption draws near. Listen up.
Turkey is constructing military facilities at Palmyra and Menah air bases in Syria. Turkish F-16 fighters operating from these forward bases would reduce response time against Israeli targets, creating new military pressure points between the two powers. The Syrian air bases function both as aviation platforms and as garrison positions for ground forces, allowing operations independent from vulnerable external supply routes. Turkey's military positioning directly challenges Israel's territorial activities in southern Syria, creating overlapping spheres of influence. Turkish air defense systems could restrict Israeli air operations that currently encounter minimal resistance over Syrian territory. While Israel maintains technical military advantages in air warfare, its forces are simultaneously engaged in Gaza and Lebanon, while monitoring Iranian missile threats.
This is the book of Luke chapter 21 and verse 24. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations, and Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled. And there shall be signs in the sun, and in the moon, and in the stars, and upon the earth distress of nations with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring, his hearts failing them for fear and for looking at giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Racha, Kadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who do rule and teach well. Peace and blessings, salutations, Yahweh, Bashmel, Shai, Barakatham, to the sincere believers, the hopefully elect. So as you saw in these opening TikTok clips right here,
operating from these,
all right, the tensions between the nation of Turkey and Israel continue to increase, and we saw in the past few years to where Turkey has openly came out and has disapproved of the whole Israeli regime, and even more so now due to what's going on in the land of Gaza, which is nothing more than a blatant genocide and the colonialization of the land, which is what these Edomites have always done, and justifying it by claiming to free themselves from the threat of terror, when they themselves bring the terror to every land that they occupy. So we're in the time, as we just read in Luke 21, where the time of the Gentiles is near to be fulfilled. See, the time of Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, the time of these other nations which conspired together with this devil, pursuant to Psalms, the 83rd chapter, to take us down from being a nation, their time is at an end. And everywhere you look, as it says, we'll go back in verse 25, right, that upon the earth, distress of nations with purpose. As it says in the book of 2 Timothy, the 3rd chapter, I believe, it says, in the last days shall come perilous times, dangerous times, which we're living in the midst of. So this is a sign that our redemption draweth nigh. This is not a time to be fearful. This is not a time to fall off. This is a time to rejoice and be glad. This is a time to praise the name of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, to stay true, to exercise the faith, man. All right. Because these things, the Lord is shaking things up in the earth. And it's clear to see, if you're paying attention to what's going on overseas, that everything is on the table. Nuclear war, World War III, the MOTB is about to be rolled out, societal collapse, financial collapse, everything is on the table. Israeli officials alarmed by potential Turkish base in Syria. Now, you saw in that clip on TikTok to where Israel, Netanyahu, pretty much came out and said that, look, if this Turkish base interferes with our military operations in Syria, then he's pretty much saying that they will destroy that base, which is pretty much going to declare war on Turkey. And like I said before, Turkey, they ain't messing with Israel. And they've made that known. All right. This is why you've been seeing over the past 2 years with this whole Russia-Ukraine situation that Turkey has openly expressed interest in joining the BRICS. So if something goes down, which more than likely it will, according to biblical prophecy, it is going to go down, then Turkey is going to leave the NATO alliance and they're going to join themselves with Russia. All right. They're going to join themselves with the BRICS. And of course, Israel also is threatening to bomb Iran. America, the same thing. And Iran is being protected by Russia. All right. So prophecy is lining up. All right. So we'll get this. Dealing with this Turkish base in Syria. Israeli officials have voiced concerns over reports that Turkey is considering establishing a military base in Syria, warning that such a move could limit Israel's operational freedom in the region. If a Turkish air base is established in Syria, it would undermine Israel's freedom of operation. This is a potential threat that we oppose, the Jerusalem Post reported. The concerns stem from the growing cooperation between Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan's government, and Syrian leader Ahmed al-Sharaa, who took power after Bashar Assad's regime was overthrown in December. Ankara has already backed Syria's new leadership, offering economic and military assistance. All right, so now Turkey has come to the aid of Syria, and of course, the small hats, they don't like that. So there's about to be another war front open up in the so-called Middle East. See, in a statement released last month, Turkey said that it was continuing to, quote, study the establishment of a training base in line with the requirements of the new government and to enhance the capabilities of the Syrian army. All right. So also when you go here, destroy and devastate the Zionist small hats. Turkish president prays for the Jewish state's destruction amid mass protests. Okay. So this is from March 31st, just a few days ago. All right. Again, things are heating up in Western Asia, the so-called Middle East, especially in that area of the nation state of Israel, because that's where the valley of Yehoshaphat is going to go down. That's where all these nations are going to gather together. All right. And they're going to do battle. That's where this third world war is going to go down. And pursuant to Jeremiah, the 49th chapter, we'll get it. But the least of the flock, being Israel, is drawing these nations out to war. All right. So before we get Jeremiah 49, let's go to Ezekiel, the 38th chapter, because this alliance, all right, that we're about to read about is exactly what you see happening here. Prophecy about Gog and future invasion of Israel. See, so Israel is about to be invaded by Gog and Magog, by Meshach and Tubal. Right. Let's get into it. Ezekiel 38:1. And the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, which Gog is Russia, the land of Magog, also Russia, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, which is Turkey, and prophesy against him, and say, Thus saith the Lord God Yahweh, Behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. So the Lord is against Russia and Turkey, but for the sake of prophecy, for the sake of the destruction of the heathen, he's raised them up. All right, he's going to use them to destroy the nation state of Israel. Let's continue to read on. And I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth in all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. And the scriptures also say that the Lord mustereth the hosts of the battle. So the Lord has put it on the spirits of these kings to be roused up for war. When you read Joel chapter 3 and verse 9, it says, Wake up the mighty men, prepare for war. Let all the heathen draw near, man. So the Lord is the one that's stirring things up. He's the one stirring the pot. Because once again, this is the end of the time of the Gentile. This is the end of the time of the rule of Esau. It's come to a fulfillment. All right. Even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. Now pay attention here. Ezekiel 38 and 5. Persia, which Persia is the ancient name for modern day Iran. Ethiopia and Libya with them. And all you got to do is a simple Google search. All these nations are joined unto the BRICS, okay? Russia, China are guards unto these nations here. All you got to do is Google it. Biblical prophecy. All of them with shield and helmet. So Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya are going to be joined to Gog and Magog in these last days for this third world war. Gomer, Turkey, and all his bands, the house of Togarmah, which is Turkey, of the north quarters, and all his bands and many people with thee. Now, just for reference, all right, when you see Gomer, Togarmah, Gog and Magog, these are the ancient names of the modern day lands which were once occupied by the sons of Japheth. Okay, now of course we know that today the sons of Japheth do not dwell in those lands. It's the sons of Esau, all right, the seed of the Edomites, and a little bit of Ishmael, you know what I'm saying, and Elam mixed up in there. All right, but this is not speaking to Japheth. Okay, this is just referring to the ancient names of those lands where Japheth dwelt. But today Esau and these other nations are up in there. All right, but it all plays in the last days prophecy. The house of Togarmah of the north quarters and all his bands and many people with thee. Be thou prepared and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them. Okay, this is why you have rhetoric coming out from Russia that Israel and America bet not touch Iran. Why is that? Because as it says here, be thou a guard unto them. Okay, guard these weaker nations. You see? And when America and Israel go to make a move on Iran, listen, this is what they're about to do. And I got an article we'll get into. But they're prepared to bomb Iran. So what you think will happen once they bomb Iran? All right, Iran already said, listen, if you come and bomb us, then we're going to destroy your military bases that you have over here. All right. So that's going to be a full blown escalation, man. All right. It says in verse 8, after many days thou shalt be visited, in the latter years thou shalt come back from the sword, and is gathered out of many people against Israel, which have been always waste, but it is brought forth out of the nations, and they shall dwell safely, all of them. All right, after these nations are destroyed, that's when we're going to be set back up. Now, let's go to Jeremiah, the 49th chapter. Jeremiah 49. And let's go down. Jeremiah 49 and start at 20. Therefore, hear the counsel of the Lord, and that he hath taken against Edom, and his purposes that he hath purposed against the inhabitants of Teman. Surely the least of the flock, being Israel, shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitations desolate with them. You see that? So the nation state of Israel, okay, they're drawing out these other nations, man. And they're greatly despised amongst the nations. When you read in Obadiah, it says that, well, let's get it. Obadiah, right? That the Edomites would be greatly, Obadiah, verse 1 and 1. Edom will be humbled. The vision of Obadiah, thus saith the Lord Yahweh concerning Edom. We have heard a rumor from the Lord, and an ambassador is sent among the heathen. Arise ye, and let us rise up against her in battle. Behold, I have made thee small among the heathen. Thou art greatly despised. You see? So these Edomites, these so-called white people, they're greatly despised worldwide. And the hatred for them, especially the Amalekites, okay, which are the small hats that dwell in the land of Israel, the hatred for them is off the chain right now. Okay, everybody has an evil eye towards the nation state of Israel because of what they're doing. All right, and how they're trying to justify themselves in their wickedness. All right, this is why the president of Turkey, Tayyip Erdogan, been cussing them small hats out with no remorse. See? It says Erdogan offers prayers for Palestinian terrorists. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan called for God to destroy the small hats during a prayer service to mark the end of Ramadan on March 30. It says, may Allah, for the sake of his name, destroy and devastate the Zionist small hats. All right. He also prayed for mercy upon the martyrs of Hamas and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, and a speedy recovery for their wounded terrorists. All right. So, Erdogan's letting it be known, you know what I'm saying, that he ain't with the small hats, that he ain't with America. You see, this is why they about to side with Russia according to biblical prophecy. Let's go here. The U.S. sends a second aircraft carrier to Middle East as Trump threatens to bomb Iran. So we here. All right, these things are picking up, man. All right. It says the U.S. is increasing its military presence in the Middle East as a war of words between Iran and President Donald Trump over Iran's nuclear ambitions sent tensions spiraling in recent days. So basically what's going on with this is that Trump has pretty much threatened to bomb Iran unless they stop their nuclear program. Now, Iran has already let it be known, to hell with you, America. We gonna have our nuclear program. If you want a war, then it's a war that you're gonna get. But if America can have nukes, then we can too. And notice how America's trying to bully Iran into not continuing their nuclear program. But Iran is a sovereign nation. They have a right to defend themselves. Who is America to come and tell anybody that you can't have nukes when America has nukes? Do you see America going to Russia and telling Vladimir Putin that y'all better stop producing nuclear weapons or else we gonna bomb you? Are they doing that to North Korea? Hell no, they ain't doing that to North Korea. You know what I'm saying? China got nukes. You don't see America going to China talking about, hey, y'all better stop building them nukes or else no. Because they already know what's going to happen, all right? Because they know that Russia and China got the firepower to obliterate America off the map. So they ain't going to press that button, right? But when it comes to Iran, who they deem is weaker and inferior, they trying to flex their muscle on Iran, but Iran ain't having it, okay? And let's go to Joel, you know what I'm saying? Because as it says in Joel, let the weak say, I'm strong. So these weaker nations that America used to bully before, now they raising up and saying, we strong too. Now we got nukes. You know what I'm saying? Now we're equal to the firepower of America. Joel 3. And prepare war, wake up the mighty men. That might be... Yep, let's start at verse 9. Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war, Wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up. Beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. See, so these weaker nations now, all right, Iran being one of them, is now saying that they're strong. Okay, they're saying that America ain't gonna stop us from building our nuclear arsenal, because ultimately, why? Iran understands that they have the backing of Russia and China and the rest of the BRICS nations. So now they're emboldened to stand up against the horde, to stand up against Babylon the Great, when in times past they would have never had such rhetoric. All right, so the Lord is orchestrating the pieces on the chessboard, and it's about to be a checkmate for these heathen. All right, the Pentagon extended the deployment of the USS Harry S. Truman aircraft carrier strike group and ordered a second flotilla to the Middle East. Pentagon spokesman Sean Parnell confirmed Tuesday. It also sent additional warplanes to the region, including F-35 fighters and B-2 stealth bombers. The posture shift came as Trump threatened to bomb Iran if the country does not strike a deal over its nuclear weapons capabilities, right? If they don't make a deal, there will be bombing, all right? And Iran has pretty much told Trump, you can go F yourself. You know what I'm saying? We're not going to abide to any nuclear deal. You know what I'm saying? We're going to do what we want to do. All right? So do what you got to do. See? Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, hit back on Monday that while Iran believes a U.S. strike is unlikely, if they commit any mischief, they will surely receive a strong reciprocal blow. You see that? So that's the weak nation saying that we're strong. So it's like, listen, look, we doubt that America is going to do something, but if you do, just know that you're going to have something coming right back to you. All right, that's the energy that these nations are putting off on America now. See? Let's go here. Check this out. Putin launches largest military draft in years despite ceasefire talks. So all these nations are getting ready for war. They're all building up their armies. They're all assembling themselves. You see? And this really speaks to the prophecy of Revelation 16 and verse 12, I believe. Let's go there. Right? Because the Lord is that Euphrates River. Yep, Revelation 16 and 12. And the sixth angel poured out his vial upon the great river Euphrates, and the waters thereof was dried up, that the way of the kings of the east, which is Russia, China, North Korea, India, Iran, all right, just to name a few, might be prepared. Okay, this is the battle of Armageddon that is shaping up here. And this is going to be a worldwide conflict. World War III is biblical prophecy. See? So we're coming into the warmer months of the year. A lot of things are about to go down. All right? And that Euphrates River, you know, we've gone into lessons on it, but that thing is pretty much dry. All right? So that's where these nations are going to move their tanks. They're going to move their troops. They're going to move their heavy artillery across there. And they're going to march and converge on the land of Israel to do this final battle. All right, call Halal Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. And that's why these nations are in a posture to order conscriptions to implement military drafts. Okay, right now, Germany, that's what they're doing. UK, they're about to do the same thing. All right. Poland as well. They've implemented a military draft for their population. Let's check this out real quick.
I was disappointed in a certain way. I think he'll be okay. But if he isn't, I was disappointed in a certain way. Some of the things that were said over the last day or two having to do with Zelensky, because when he considers Zelensky not credible, he's supposed to be making a deal with him, whether you like him or you don't like him. So I wasn't happy with that. But I think he's going to be good. And I think Zelensky, by the way, I see he's trying to back out of the rare earth deal. And if he does that, he's got some problems, big problems. We made a deal on rare earth, and now he's saying, well, I want to renegotiate the deal. He wants to be a member of NATO. Well, he was never going to be a member of NATO. He understands that. So if he's looking to renegotiate the deal, he's got big problems.
And Trump looked through, man. You can tell he ain't getting. So like, you can tell he ain't getting no sleep at night. Let's go to Revelation, the 13th chapter. All right, because this little horn is speaking great things. Okay, which is little horn. Revelation 13 and verse 4. Matter of fact, man, let's start at the top. Revelation 13 and 1, the beast from the sea. And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, referring to NATO and the EU, the modern day revised Roman Empire. All right, specifically Western Rome, which fell in the 400s AD and came back after 1,000 years during the time of the Renaissance in the 1400s. Okay, this is the revival of that same beast. All right, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death. Okay, one of these heads, all right, that was a part of this beast, right? This is referring to the Western Roman Empire, because there was a time during ancient Rome where, because of infighting, instability, and ultimately threats from barbarian tribes, where the empire was split in two. It was split into the Byzantine Empire and Rome in the West. All right, Rome in the West is the one that fell. The Byzantine Empire continued on for another 1,000 years, and they fell, and I believe the 1400s. Okay, so the head that was wounded unto death was the Western Roman Empire. Now peep this. And his deadly wound was healed. When was his deadly wound healed? This deadly wound was healed during the time of the Renaissance, which what does Renaissance mean? It means rebirth. Okay, so in the 1400s, after 1,000 years of being down and out, Esau came back into the picture. They launched the age of colonization, went around the 4 corners of the earth, built up the desolate places, and built this new revived Rome, in which you see the whole of the earth models itself after. But the main hub of it being in the West, okay, the capital city now being America, Babylon the Great. All right, so that's when that deadly wound was healed during the time of the Renaissance. And all the world wondered after the beast, and they worshiped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast, and they worshiped the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast, who is able to make war with him? Yeah, because these nations, you know what I'm saying, Esau was doing all kind of stuff. He was dropping atomic bombs, you know what I'm saying? Hey, look, after that, the nations was like, who can make war with the beast? You know what I'm saying? This man can make fire fall down from heaven, and then, of course, Esau's blessing being the sword. When you go to Genesis 27:39 through 40, Isaac, his father, gave him the blessing of the sword. So Esau is a master at warfare. Okay, this is how he's able to go around the 4 corners of the earth and conquer the nations, just like their progenitor, Alexander the Greek, okay, which he ushered in the rule of Esau Edom through the Greeks. All right, he also went about, when you read in the book of First Maccabees, it tells you that Alexander went through the ends of the earth and pretty much conquered all the kings, so much so to where the earth was quiet before him. So he subdued all the kings of the earth, and that's when the Edomites got their dominion, you see. And that's why these nations said, who can make war with the beast? Because when you go into Alexander, he was pretty much unstoppable. Like, they was fighting for years and years, and they never took a L. But Esau is about to take a L now, because the Lord is about to take his rule from him. And this verse 5 is the point here. And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies. All right, and you can see that by all the philosophies this man puts out there, his perverse way of life, his GMOs, trying to gene edit, you know what I'm saying, is cursing the Most High, you know what I'm saying. We go into these things, but there's a whole lot of things this devil is doing and has done to where it pretty much shows that he's the devil. Pretty much shows that he's adverse to righteousness. He's adverse to Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. And power was given unto him to continue 40 and 2 months, right? So that mouth, given a mouth to speak great things against the Most High. And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle and them that dwell in heaven, right? You go down and talk about, come to make war with the saints and all that. But this is that little horn America, okay? It was Trump. He's the ruler over America, Babylon the Great, right? So this is what Russia is doing in response to the harsh rhetoric, the great things that America is speaking. Russian President Vladimir Putin has ordered the conscription of 160,000 men into the army, making the largest draft initiative in years, even as ceasefire talks with Ukraine continue. The timing and scale of the draft raised doubts about Russia's commitment to diplomacy. Ukraine has accused the Kremlin of using negotiations to delay while reinforcing its position on the battlefield. All right, so ultimately we know it's not going to be no peace. This is why these negotiations and peace talks, they're not going anywhere, because the Lord has these kings in the spirit to go to war. Okay, and it tells you that in Daniel, where it says, see if we can get that. There's Daniel 7, maybe Daniel 7 verse. Daniel 7. To the dividing of times. Ruleth in the kingdom of man. I'm gonna just do that. I ain't gonna lie, I'm through. I'm super tired. Things slip on my mind. Yeah, Salakia in the kingdom of men. Pop up. Okay, Daniel 4, yeah, I'm through. Daniel 4 and 17, Salakia. This matter is by the decree of the watchers, and the demand by the word of the holy ones, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will, and setteth up over it the basis of men, which is Esau, the so-called white man. Okay, Esau is the base of men. See? So it's the Lord that is making these kings pretty much forfeit their talks of peace and run towards war. Right? You see Putin. This man is ready. You know what I'm saying? He got that smug look on his face. You know what I'm saying? Putin's order, effective April 1st through 15th, calls up Russian citizens aged 18 to 30 for military service, according to state news agency TASS. The spring conscription campaign will not only add fresh troops, but also replace conscripts who have completed their service. It is the largest conscription draft in 14 years, according to Ukraine's Center for Countering Disinformation, as well as since the start of Russia's invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. So they calling up 160,000 men ages 18 to 30. So they ready to go. All right. And Russia is smashing Ukraine, by the way. Okay, that's why America's like, listen, we got bigger war fronts to worry about. Ukraine is a lost cause. You know what I'm saying? That's why he's trying to negotiate peace with Putin, because it's like, look, you won, bro. Trump is like, look, you won. Let's just end this so I can get out of this and I can focus on the so-called Middle East. You know what I'm saying? But it ain't gonna happen, man. Okay, war is still gonna break out because it's the will of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. You see? Let's now tap into this. A few more articles and we'll close out. Didn't mean to make this long. Trump is leading us into hyperinflation. Democrats must think big and strike back. All right. So with these new tariffs coming in place, you know, it says right here. Check this out. Trump tariffs send Dow, which is the stocks, to 1,600 point decline. Here's the dollar slumps. White House increases China tariffs, also levies big charges on EU, Japan, and other trading partners. U.S. markets suffered their steepest declines since 2020 as investors grapple with the threat that President Trump's new tariff plan will trigger global retaliation and hurt the economy. Major stock indexes dropped as much as 6% on Thursday. Stocks lost roughly $3.1 trillion in market value. It's like their largest one-day decline since March 2020. So what does this mean? If you have 3.1 trillion dropping from the stocks in one day, that means that everybody that is investing in stocks is pulling out because they know what's about to happen to this economy. That we're headed to a depression. All right. So America is done. This place is finished. All right. Jeremiah 51. This place can't be healed. All right. It's time for the wicked to be punished. Jeremiah 51. In verse 7, Babylon has been a golden cup in the Lord's hand that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine. Therefore, the nations are mad. Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. How for her? Take balm for her pain. If so, she may be healed. We would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her and let us go, everyone, into his own country. For her judgment reaches unto heaven and is lifted up even to the skies. Okay, so Babylon, the great America, is through, finished, cooked. All right, the Lord is done with this place, man. See, and this is why the economy is going down. People's mental morale is at an all-time low. You know, people about to lose everything. When you go into, let's get this real quick. What is, for the sake of edification, hyperinflation? Hyperinflation, rapid and unrestrained increase in prices. All right, which we've already seen hyperinflation take place in several other countries. I believe is Venezuela. Yeah, Venezuela, their currency, the Bolivar, you know, hyperinflation hit them so hard to where you actually have people making like origami type art out of the money. That's how worthless that the money is. You know what I'm saying? People are literally using the Venezuelan Bolivar to wipe their behind after they go to the bathroom. All right. And the US dollar is about to become of the same function once it's said and done. So hyperinflation is defined as a rapid and unrestrained increase in prices. See, typically exceeding 50% per month. It occurs when a country's central bank prints excessive amounts of money, which America has done, leading to a significant decline in the value of the currency and causing prices of goods and services to rise uncontrollably. In extreme cases, hyperinflation can result in daily price increases, severely impacting the economy and people's purchasing power. So, like the show I did yesterday, an example, you know what I'm saying, you might go to the store early in the morning, you know what I'm saying, you buy some bread for $125, $150, you come back the same day in the evening, and that same loaf of bread you saw for $125, $150 in the morning is now $10. Okay, that's an example of hyperinflation. And really, when you get to the point of hyperinflation, that's the end game for any economy. Okay, because then the money is pretty much so unstable that nothing would work. All right, if you're getting paid $35 an hour in a scenario of hyperinflation, well, your rate of getting paid really wouldn't even matter, because the price of everything will be going up so fast that your 35 an hour would turn to $5 an hour compared to the rate of inflation. All right, so then everything will just collapse. This is why the stocks are going under. All right, effects of hyperinflation. Hyperinflation can cause several adverse consequences. People may begin hoarding goods such as food. There can be food supply shortages as a result. Right? Hyperinflation can occur in circumstances affecting the underlying production economy in conjunction with central bank printing. So look, in the event of hyperinflation, everything is going to come to a halt. Everything going to come to a standstill. All right? People are going to stop working. People are going to lose their jobs. People are going to lose hope. They're going to lose faith in the system. And the world is going to pretty much go down to the pit, you know? Hyperinflation scenarios are typically rare, but they can spiral out of control when they begin. And see, America is going to spiral out of control, right? That's the place, that's the fate of America. All these damn pop-ups, man. So, yeah. The Democrats are like, look, Trump is leading us into hyperinflation with all these damn tariffs. And this is good, because this is what we need to get out of here. All right? And from this economic collapse, that's when they're going to bring out the MOTB, Universal Basic Income, and all of that. And that's when World War III is really going to, pop off full scale. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and close out. Lord willing, this lesson was edifying through the Rakah Kadash. And until next time, Lord willing, Kom Rasha Allah, Wa Baba Ball. On to the next one. Shalom.